Erica Serwin here from Pink Bucker Designs, and I've got another fun spooky Halloween treat for you this week. This is a fun little matchbox design that holds something that's not candy. I love when I can find treats that aren't candy. It opens like this, and it's got one of these sticky, I don't know, my kids call them a sticky hand, and they throw it and it sticks to stuff. They love it. So I created a little matchbox design for it. Let me show you what it looks like. You actually get 50 of them in a bag. They look like this, and they're from Walmart in the Halloween section. So easy to find and really fun for the kids, and something other than candy. Now I'm using the Spooky Sweets stamp set along with the Spooky Bats Punch that are in the 2018 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. When you buy them together, you actually save 10%. So make sure you look for that bundle price. All right, well, let's get started. First, let's go ahead and make our Halloween scene. Now, I decided to pull out my embossing stuff, and I thought that that moon needed to be nice and spooky yellow for Halloween. So I've got a piece of Blackberry Bliss, and you guys can find all the measurements on this project over on my Facebook Live post that is linked here on YouTube. Scroll down under the third picture and you'll find that PDF. It looks just like this. All right, you guys, there it is and all the measurements. So this is a piece of Blackberry Bliss that is 2 7/8 by 3 3/8. I've rubbed it with my embossing buddy, which helps reduce static and will help hopefully keep all of our little pineapple punch embossing powder bits where they need to go. Now I'm going to stamp the moon here in Versamark, and then I'm going to take my pineapple punch embossing powder. These new in colors this year, we've got embossing powder for each of them, and just shake it off. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to take our heat tool, and it does take a minute for this heat tool to heat up. But once it does, you'll see the moon turn kind of shiny, and then it'll be set. It creates kind of a texture on your paper, which is really cool. Now, the heat tool does have 2 settings, which is really nice. I prefer the high setting because it does react faster. But be very careful to keep your fingers away so that you don't burn your fingers, because it is hotter than a hairdryer. Now look, you can see it's nice and shiny. Isn't that beautiful? All right, I'm gonna give it a second to dry, and while we're waiting for that to dry, let's stamp our spooky bats. And I am using StazOn Black for this. And the reason I'm using StazOn, there's 2 reasons. I want my bats to be really, really black. And StazOn is a much blacker ink than Memento Black. I lost my words there for a second. And I'm using red rubber. So StazOn is just fine for red rubber. Now I had to stop and think, do I stamp it at the bottom or the top? But I wanted to stamp it at the top because that's how you put in your punch. Now you will have to do some finagling with your paper here because it's kind of at a funky angle. So I'm going to kind of trim some of this off and see if we can get it in. And you're going to line up those bats. These bats are really cool because they actually do look like they are flying. And if you're creating kind of a scene of bats, they will all be different and not all the same. All right, once you've got them all lined up perfectly, you're gonna punch them out and set them right there. Now I think, yep, we are dry on the embossing powder. So pull your StazOn back on. This is another reason I'm using StazOn, because I'm gonna stamp on this dark colored cardstock. And this is kind of like the clouds at night, the spooky clouds. I looked up nighttime spooky scenes on Google Images, and I found that most of them were purple. So that's why I chose the Blackberry Bliss. And of course the clouds are black because they're really just shadows at night. You can't see them. And so there's shadows up against that moon. All right, now I'm gonna use my mini dimensionals on these little spooky bats. And I'm gonna arrange them all around, flying around the moon. And then we're going to do the sentiment that says Happy Halloween. All right, there we go. Now, on a scrap piece of Whisper White, I'm just going to stamp that sentiment that says Happy Halloween. And I'm not going to do anything fancy to it other than just trim it with my scissors. And so if you want to make sure yours is perfectly straight, just get out your trimmer and cut it. And then leave a little bit of space here on the end, and you can use your punch, or you can take your scissors if you feel like you can do that. Just cut a V there on the end to make just a tiny little flag. All right, adhesive on the back, and there we go. All right, now let's put our little matchbox, our match, is it called a matchbox? No, it's called, I don't know, matchstick. You guys know the little matches you get from maybe like the restaurant. All right, this piece is 7 by 3.5. It's basic gray, and we're gonna score it at 3 and at 3.5, and one more time at 6.5. All right, so we're gonna fold all these lines in, and we're gonna get our little treat here. And I found that I had to kind of finagle him around in the bag so that he was perfect. And I'm actually folding a little bit of the bag over, and I'm gonna squeeze it down underneath the bottom part of this little lip here. Now, one word of caution is to make sure you put your staples pretty low, and make sure that bag is down there low. That way, this will slide under, because if you put your staples too high, you won't be able to slide that under. All right, now I've got a piece of Blackberry Bliss Designer Series paper. This is straight from the Regals DSP pack, and it is 1/2 inch by 3.5, just there along the bottom. And then we're gonna take our spooky scene. Oh, we've got a rogue dimensional paper. Well, it's gonna get sandwiched in. And put that right there. And fold it closed. And the last thing we need to do, of course, is add that ribbon. Pineapple Punch, 1/8 inch grosgrain ribbon. It really adds a pop of color to our spooky night. And I will add that on with a glue dot, and we are done. All right, so there's a fun non-candy treat if you'd like to make those for the neighborhood kids, or for maybe some kids at school. I know my kids' school, we can't send candy, so this would be a fun treat for them to take. All right, let me know if you have questions. Make sure you hop over to my blog, get that PDF. It's always under the 3rd picture on my Facebook Live post, and it'll have everything you need to make your own little spooky treats. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.